Alright guys, welcome back to Victoria 3. So in this video, I just want to very quickly, we'll just go ahead and jump straight into the game here. I want to go over the most important part of this game, which is the economy. So to do that, we're just going to jump in on US Iron Man very quickly here, so we can just get straight in. I can show you guys what's going on and what I'm talking about. So the first thing, we can go ahead and pick our research as the US. I don't really like starting military. Military is decent enough. Let's see here. Society. We're going to go straight for nationalism. The reason for the US in particular is there's some things down here with, Manifest Destiny that rely on our ability for nationalism. Another thing you can do immediately is a lot of your interests are locked behind actually having interest in the Great Plains and Pacific Coast. So what I normally do is I just pull them off of the western side here of South America and just stick them up here. This will actually allow you to colonize Oklahoma and Alberta. This is kind of bad. I mean, this is the 49th parallel where the U.S. historical border is with Canada. They decided there's like a historically, basically, this river they thought was originally here, and it was like the river runs here, so they just were like up into the river, dropped down 49th parallel all the way. There's a video actually made by I forget who. God, I'm blanking on the name, but basically there was a whole like pig war. Just type in pig wars on YouTube, and it's actually pretty interesting, this conflict of how they wanted to draw the borders in here. But before we get too far off of track, those are just disappearing interest in the Andes and La Plata. We don't need our battalions in reserve. Construction goods, that's fine. Insufficient tax capacity, it's important, so we're just going to immediately build one more government administration. We need the bureaucracy anyway, so we might as well do that. So the very first thing we want to do, as the US, we struggle with bureaucracy. So if we click this, this will tell us what's expensive in the United States of America. So we want a cheap good, say coal. If we want to import coal, we can get stuff from the French. There's a lot of cheap stuff we can get from the French. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to get a trade agreement with the French immediately. So what this now allows us to do, if we let the day tick here, we actually get that. If we import coal from the French. Okay, I got scammed. Maybe it hasn't actually applied yet. Really? There we go. Okay, so there we saw it activate. We can see here trade routes, minus 90. And we can see we have a French trade route, that coal, but that French trade route is not adding to our bureaucracy cost of trade routes. So what this does, it allows France to trade with no bureaucracy and no tariffs with us. So these encourage export tariffs do not affect the French whatsoever, which we can see here. So we have fabric, it's being shipped out to Europe. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to switch to protectorism, which means the British and Texas are now paying for the fabric. Another thing I like to do immediately, improve relations with Texas, and bankroll them. Bankrolling them is super cheap, just helps keep them afloat. It's worth it. Less infamy. The thing I'm immediately going to do also, we have decent institutions off bat, but we could immediately, so what we're going to do is actually, overview, reform our government. Whig Party, Democrats out. Reform our party immediately. Institutions. Laws. This, I assume, is going to be patched, but we're just going to ban slavery immediately. They're pissed, but I don't care they're pissed. And we're going to come in here, and we're going to suppress them. So we're banning slavery immediately to get the slavery debate to start ticking down. Immediately after this passes, we're going to be passing multiculturalism in the United States, which I am blind. Here it is, racial segregation. We're going multiculturalism, and that will end. So we can add Texan statehood here. Whaling industry. And that's about it. But basically, once the Indian migrations start happening, you can avert the crisis by doing that. Also, the reason we're throwing them out immediately, as we can see here, a lot of radicals from changing government. We're going to nip that at the bud. As far as I'm concerned, the Democrats will never be over here again. We're going to suppress them all the way down, boost up these guys. But yeah, they're really never going to be happy with us. So this is what we're looking for: expensive government goods. How do we find this in reality? We go to market. So the first thing is your standard of living. If you click on this, this is where it calculates that value. So our pops are currently paying an average of 8.6 compared to the base price for their pop needs, and 32% of these pops have a standard of living below the minimum expected and will become more radical over time. So if we just I have middle mouse click to send it, so we can look by percentage of expenditures here. We can see paper for our pops. Well, it's not really that important. What we want is to look higher and the thicker of red. So the thing that's really causing us problems is grain being expensive, clothes being expensive, services being expensive. So that's why it's not ideal to come in here on consumption taxes and to just tax really any of this. Taxing this stuff is kind of like the emergency button for myself. We can also see your construction goods. We're paying a ton for iron. The reason for that is in the market, 51% more expensive for iron. So we want to come to a big city like New York. We have a clothes mill. There's not enough qualifications to fully staff. That is a problem. We have not an import of silk, so that is a problem. So we need to go here, import luxury products. Silk. None of it is efficient as of yet because I need to take this textile mill, craftsman sewing, then import, then silk. I'll let this tick. And we're going to import from the French because it doesn't cause bureaucracy. It's fine. The whaling industry here. Cash reserves up. Weekly profit is good. Cool. So we're going to immediately go ahead and pass that. We should have a whaling section here. We're just going to build 2 more whaling sections here. We're also immediately in New York and Ohio build some more construction sectors first. Then in New York, upgrade this textile mill. Or that was Pennsylvania's textile mill. I converted to luxury, which is fine. But we will also just do this as well. Then we need to fix the price of grain. So if we go to here, rural, maize is what we do most of the time here. America. So we can quickly look for a state which will have qualifications. Looks like we don't have enough qualifications, and it's not good. So we're going to go up on harvesting tools for these. We're going to go down on the rest to maintain single crop. And we're going to go soil enrichment. So if we go back to market and let this tick again, you can see iron is insanely expensive. Yeah, so these are on the green, so we'll just go ahead and get all of that silk, try to solve that problem. But you can see here we still need double the amount of silk. So to solve that, declare interest off here. Immediately Indonesia. Let that settle in. So tools, iron, clippers, that type of deal. Main thing is iron. So you can see here our silk demand went down. That's fine. Those trade routes should over time become more efficient. Yep, they should mature. We also need more tools. Import. You can see here, cheap tools from the French. Might as well grab them. Iron. Grab it from the French. Groceries, anything. Grab them. Nope, not from the French. Paper. Import. And you can kind of solve a lot of these problems like this in the immediate term. See here, French. Just go ahead and grab it. And none of this is costing me bureaucracy because we have that trade route. Yep, so it's not even illegal. Adds the Indian removal. Yep, raising concerns. We don't care about the southern planters and we want to weaken them. So we go here, diplomatic lens, establish colony. We're still developing our interest. Another thing that we're going to have to do almost immediately with that is we're going to have to grab Quantine here, or quinine. Basically, this is the drug, as far as I know, that was developed for Teddy Roosevelt's Panama Canal to stop the workers from getting influenza and dying en masse. Instead, we're going to be using it to go to Indonesia and get ourselves some silk. The only other way would be probably take a treaty port in China and do that kind of stuff, but I'm more worried about the United States. Iron, we'll look for more. So we can see here, we can get 70 from the British, so we're going to do that. That high amount is worth it. It's going to drastically use down. We're also missing production capacity here. So what we're going to immediately do now, rural development, iron mines. Basically, if you're wondering why, even though right here, so this is a good example, great example, New York. We can see here this is going to make a ton of money, projectively. It doesn't have to project to make money. So a great example would be, say you're trying to build railroads for transportation in your country, and you have railroads queued up. If you go to then try to build a, what's it called? Blanking on the name. Do I even have it researched? Motor industry, to produce some engines for that rail line. What it's going to say is it's going to be losing a lot of money, probably because you don't have enough steel. And also, there's no actual use for those engines yet. So if I do this, yeah, I'm losing a crap ton of profit, because it's going to be using a bunch of steel, and there's not that much of a demand for the engines. So we do need to go back. Roll. We can see here, atmospheric engine pump. What we can do is we can go back in technology to here, which is going to use less mechanist, which then now, all of a sudden, we actually do have the ability to build more. And New York has a ton of people in it, so we're just going to build 7 iron mines. Crank that time up. Inputting, yeah, imports are really low for American iron. We've got that 70 back from Russia, so we'll go ahead and import that as well. The whaling industries, I'm just doing that to satisfy this quest here, building levels greater than or equal to 3 for the whaling industry. But a lot of our problems here are, one, construction is really expensive because iron, mainly. A third of all of our construction costs are from iron, so lowering iron will increase that a lot. Winfield's Cornelius Vanderbilt will be abolitionist, which is important because Cornelius Vanderbilt is an industrialist. He's one of the more famous industrialists if you know history. So yeah, lacking of iron not only makes stuff more expensive to build for us, but it's also making our factories in places like this produce less dynamite, produce less chemical plants for fertilizer. Our fertilizer then leaks into the farms, and the farms aren't as efficient. And it's a cascading problem that, on the surface, it might be if I look at a farm, you know, it might be, oh, we're out of fertilizer. Well, the solution isn't actually to build more fertilizer in this case, more chemical plants. It's to fix the iron problem. And the best way to see that, of course, is going to be on the market. This is the end-all be-all. Basically, a good rule of thumb is if this number is really, really high, build some stuff and course correct. Silk, on the short term, you can import, so from Qing, we're going to do that because that trade route will mature more than likely. And on that note, we will begin improving relations with them, because eventually I'm going to hope to get a trade agreement with China. The reason is, well, if the whole open trade thing on China doesn't work, or a free trade thing forcing on China doesn't work from another European power, then at least I will be able to. So slavery's banned first 2 years of the game. Easy clap. Slavery debate begins to start firing. We will immediately now go racial segregation, multiculturalism, and start to try to pass that. So artillery's expensive. French market is unproductive for coal. Basically what that means now is our coal is at 6%. I canceled it if we go back. What this means is coal in the American market is 31. Coal in the British market is 35. But after tariff, that number goes up to 35.7 from 35.5 per coal. And we can see here trade revenue and tariffs. So what this means basically is, say like here, iron is 75 more expensive than what it should be. Importing from anywhere is better because they're not as bad off as me in the iron market. We'll go Brazil. And what we're going to do also is declare rivalry with Russia, which will give us some more influence. We're going to begin improving relations with Brazil. Establish colony. Boom, slips. We'll get that rolling. Yep, so this is the Free Trade Party has formed. Let's see how, what's it all about. So we can see here the Democratic Party is back in the government. That's from the election. But the Democratic Party is no longer led by the Southern planters or the petite bourgeoisie. It's led by the evangelicals and the rural folk. Then we have the Progress Party and the Free Trade Party. It's kind of weird that they didn't form one party, but that's fine because with their high loyalty here. Migration attraction, tech cost, capitalist investment full contribution, more tech cost, logging, agriculture, ranches, and authority. I mean, these are already amazing bonuses. Of course, we're suffering these malices, but at the end of the day, that is fine. So we have low market access at Celebs, so we'll fix that by building a port. Even though it says not enough qualifications, eventually they will get migrants to fix that, and at the end of the day they need the market access. Just not building a port is not an option. So it's actually humongous that the Democratic Party moved to the evangelicals and the rural folk, because now when these elections happen, we can see here, all of the momentum in the parties and people voting for are not going to the actual two factions, basically, that we don't want. So it doesn't matter which one of these people get elected, because I want all of them. The evangelicals, even I want them, because they are anti-slavery, they are moralist. Patriarchal is kind of meh, and the pious I could care less about. But I don't need to reform pious in the United States, because we already have public schools, and we already have total separation of church and state. So here's the Indian removal. We're going to offer them assistance. It's a little bit of money, but it's worth it, because as soon as this passes, this fixes itself immediately. So we're going to run ourselves dry on money here. So we got railing industry. Boom. Whaling precautions. This is a southern planter, so we don't actually want that. Whaling, boom. So what we're going to do is but it shines. Because I don't care about giving the southern planters more. You can actually see here a ton of loyalist. That's because we don't have people who don't really care. So here's the Trail of Tears. Yeah, so the reason this is so important to rush this is because these bad events actually give multiculturalism better chances of being enacted. We care about the industrialist opinion of us a lot, so we will continue to boost that. We have low legitimacy, but that's just going to be fine, because I don't plan on using a lot of authority for stuff. Go to market. You can see the iron problem has somewhat started to abate itself, but at the end of the day, 5 more mines should be enough in the short term. Then we need tools, so we'll start scouting. OC plenty. This is New York. So we're actually going to... This is for upper strata. Our upper strata have a ton of prosperity, so I don't care about that. Rather have them as loyalist. So tooling workshops. You can see the rest of them are already in New York, but we don't actually have the qualifications in New York, so we're going to build 2 in Ohio, 2 in Louisiana, 2 in Missouri, 2 in Indiana, 2 in Tennessee, 2 in Maryland. But yeah, I would like to stack them all in one place. The problem with the United States of America and their openingness is, Central American people, Florida, is that your qualifications for a lot of your more advanced industries are not fully online yet. Your people do not have the literacy or really the skills to pay the bills in those types of jobs. But your base resources are very, very good. So that's what you should be focusing on fixing first. Tools are just used for really everything, so I want to fix that. But immediately after, I want to drive this price of iron to 0, if not sub-0. Because it's going to make our economy really boom, but it also might set up some then eventual nice trade routes across seas that maybe we could tariff people for. So let's go check that. We have some unproductive trade routes, that's sad. But we can see here, we are shipping out a ton of cloth to people. So cloth is a really big moneymaker. You can see here we're importing goods from Britain. So we'll go ahead and tariff ourselves on that. For how little that sends. We'll pause. Sugar. Looks like we're importing sugar from a lot of places. A tiny bit of wood is going out. That's mainly it. So it looks like our big moneymaker here in America is cloth. France, of course, is taking full advantage of our... You can see here, after tariff, they're making 90. They're making hand over fist from us here. This is because they are not affected by this tariff. Which, if we go to Great Britain, you see how Great Britain really wants this? It's from the volume. They would absolutely love to take advantage of the fact that they are taking, 1K fabric from us. They're like, sure, let's give us that trade agreement. But the thing is do we really want it? Well, let's look at the British market. The British market has a lot of good things, and we know we have some things we need to fix. Silk being one of them, at some point, not so much. So, let's see here. We could buy iron from them, unless they have paper or glass. Do they have glass en masse that's cheap? They have some glass. We can build glass. Paper? Not that much. So it's looking like, all in all, can we buy, like, bulk wood from them? No, that'd be the Russians. And we're actually going to take that price. So it looks like, all in all, we don't actually have anything we need from the British market. We're already getting it from France. So in this case, we're just going to allow Britain to continue to pay us our, all in all, 5,000K here on cloth tariffs. Dark Satanic Mines. We'll go ahead and take the authority hit temporarily, because we're not planning on using it all that much. We can see our legitimacy continues to climb as we suppress the southern planters, of course, and these parties become ever increasingly more popular. Cool. We're continuing to improve with Texas, which means as soon as this hits 20, we will annex them. Eventually, it would be nice to get Brazil into our market. Afro-American vote. So, yep. So, we're just going to go straight for the new leadership. That's fine. We're just going to go straight for the bonuses to pass. Here, as our last 2 iron mines come online, this begins to fall ever further downwards. Who knows? If you guys really want, I might turn this into a full-scale playthrough. So here we go, Texan statehood. Welcome to America. This is a really good start. So we can colonize Texas, Utah immediately. And start looking towards war with Mexico. The reason we haven't done that yet is with technology passing, we are going to get a ton of claims from here. Manifest Destiny. We have researched nationalism. This will make the Southern Plantis like a bit more, and we're going to get some infamy from this. But this is going to give us claims on California, Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico. Basically, majority of what we want to take. So then we can sweep in, go to war with Mexico with those claims once our thing has died down a little bit. High tensions, I don't really care. Tools are still expensive. Iron's still expensive. But basically how this is going to work is we're going to sneak in. Probably 5 close. I have to rework my brain. I just came off of a playthrough where my game was a slideshow. Playing as Great Queen. I had about closing in on 400 million GDP, and when I was constructing things to lower this number by like 10%, I was building the number of like 50 tool workshops at that point to really affect that high amount of population. You can see here, our average standard of living is actually now middling. It's growing. People are becoming more enriched. Even our lower strata almost has double the minimum they expect on average, which is why we have so many loyalists. You can see here by effective loyalist. It's just the increases standard of living. Some, of course, fall through the cracks of our standard of living. We just need to raise the floor higher. Political movement demands, that's fine. Discrimination is a big thing, but we're fixing that. And, of course, pops dying and losing jobs and buildings from where they had ownership share. That sucks. Yeah, that's eventually, sadly, people being fired from their jobs is a problem that never really goes away. So we fixed this iron problem a little bit. We'll continue to see if we can't import. We'll go ahead and take some from the Ottomans. Tea is kind of a problem. So we're just going to take some from Qing, which we'll just take that off the list entirely. But yeah, we'll continue to try to trade with Qing over other empires, because that's how you get trade agreements. The more you trade with them and the more they trade with you, the more they're going to want trade agreements to eventually bypass that annoying tariff that you're imposing on each other, as the British are. But we're making money off the British, so they can suck it. The enactment chance goes up, but if we see here, rural folk right, yes. Plus 20% infrastructure is not the biggest of things, but if we do this, we lose our insane 20% bonus to logging, agriculture, and ranches, which is something we just cannot afford to lose. We are in such a good place economically right now. The floor on a lot of our things coming from those agriculture-based things are really, really low. So losing out on them would just be bad. It would be very bad. Another thing we want to do is start farming for more cloth, more cotton here. Go 5 on the cotton plantations there. Nope. No more qualifications there. No more qualifications there. Not enough qualifications there. Not enough there. Not enough there. Not enough there. And this is sort of the problem with the U.S. At some point, looks like we can build some in Kentucky. Thieves and liars. We don't care about that spare authority. We'll go ahead and raise the enactment chance again. Our tools from the French market are unproductive. That's because our tool workshops, as they come online, will slowly lower the floor of the price of our tools ever so slightly down, which then will eventually make our trade routes unproductive. Making your economy and nation, I guess we'll wrap some things up here. This is probably a good thing to stop. You can sort of see here how I've set up the United States of America. This is pretty easy to replicate, and I think we're in a decent position because I want to keep this video short. But basically, you've got to identify what your country, by going to trade routes, is producing a lot of. And one, edit these buttons accordingly. Don't be charging a lot on imports for something you're only exporting, and don't be charging tariffs for stuff that you're only importing and charging tariffs on their exports. This is a lot of how you can make some extra money. But if you really want to sell something, you can identify sort of what people are taking. So for example, fabric. They like fabric. I'm making a ton of money on fabric in general, because the French, even though they're not paying this 20%, tariff on my fabric, are still paying for this fabric. It's not just free fabric here. It's they're still paying this cost difference for my fabric. They're just paying it at my price ratio, not theirs. So if I want to make money, especially to like the British here, by lowering my price threshold down on cloth, the British will continue to pay me for my cheaper cloth instead of relying on their British market cloth on the large scale of things. And that'll happen for other things as well. We're currently importing a ton of cheap furniture from France. So we're also importing some clothes from Britain, etc., etc., as we take advantage of the global economy. So keep that in mind. Manipulate the markets, boys. I will see you next time.